Welcome to Plan or Die, the podcast where we talk with people who build, run, and sell planning systems in the real world. Planning sounds simple on the paper. In reality, it's messy. Changing assumptions, conflicting stakeholders, broken process, and constant pressure to deliver answers faster. This podcast is about people who deal with that every day. Today's guest is Seyma, someone who has been planning from multiple angles as a consultant, as an internal practitioner, Anaplan product owner, and a leading voice in the Anaplan community. Welcome, Seyma.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro, Stepan.
You've survived enterprise planning for more than 5 years now. What's your secret?
Staying positive. I think this is the most important one. Being hopeful and staying positive, especially in the first year.
And you have data science background. How did you get into planning and Anaplan in particular?
Anaplan was developing the tool called PlanIQ. Now they transitioned it into Forecaster. And I was getting training from a training company, data science training. Anaplan reached out to the training company because they wanted to involve people with data science backgrounds into the Anaplan world. There are different people from different backgrounds. For example, people from finance, this is a majority. People from different planning worlds, people from software development, but there was a lack of people from data science, data analytics backgrounds. And Anaplan collaborated with that company, and I was one of, there were 3 batches. I was in the first batch of data scientists becoming Anaplanners.
Nice. And this is what get you in this area. What made you stay? It's a challenging field. It's evolving very quickly. What you learned 5 years ago, of course, some of it is still applicable, but there's lots of new things to learn every year. What made you stay?
The challenge made me stay. I liked it because it was harder than I expected. I was just expecting kind of an Excel-like thing, and I wasn't very interested in the beginning. But then when I saw its challenges and capacities and the flexibility, actually it's like a coding language. You can build anything. You just don't code, but use a graphical user interface. I love the challenge of that flexibility plus empty canvas start. Actually, this was one of the important ones for me.
Right. Now, one of the interesting aspects about your profile is that you combine the consulting experience, and now for a couple of years you are the Anaplan product owner at a motor vehicle company in Texas. And so this gives you a unique perspective. Consultants often build solutions and then move on to the next engagement, whereas the internal teams live with that solution for years. And I'd love to explore and discuss this difference. Now that you are no longer a consultant, are you aware of any blind spots that you did have as a consultant?
Yeah, the most important one is, I think, the data integration and buy-in. So when as a consultant, everything is prepared, SOWs are there. If you are not working in the sales department of the company, it is already sold and you just build it. You just clock hours and build what you need to build. And it's mostly, especially in the build phase, pure model building, solving problems using Anaplan. But in the customer side, you don't do building every day, but you do other things like buy-in, stakeholder buy-in. They have to trust the tool when they see numbers, they should think that, okay, these numbers are correct. There is not a calculation mistake here. And they should use the tool. First, they should like and trust the tool. Then they should use the tool. They should open the UX pages. They should enter numbers there, etc. The dashboards, basically. And the one another important part is the integrations that I wasn't interested. I mean, I integrated in some projects using Anaplan Connect, CloudWorks, etc. But that pipeline, end-to-end pipeline, I didn't build that much of it. So, and especially designing integrations of Anaplan from one system to the
Mm-hmm.
other is a different aspect of being in the customer side. And explaining data, this is something we do almost every day, right? Talk about data, explain numbers. Like why this number is that, I wasn't expecting this, and you explain them why the revenue is not matching their revenue in Excel, because there are a lot of reasons, possible reasons, right? And yeah, and the most important, and there is also training as well. In consulting side, everything is fast, and usually you don't have that much of time for training, and companies don't invest
Mm-hmm.
their 300 per hour dollars into customized trainings, which I think very important. And the last one is domain knowledge. I should emphasize this well enough that you learn the business, you understand what's happening there, and then you start to share your insights into what should
Mm-hmm.
happen next, uh, where to where to spend the efforts as a business, because this is a critical tool. You have the company's critical data, and then you start to recommend where to invest or where to look, how to increase the revenue, uh, where to cut expenses, etc. This is
Mm-hmm.
also another part. So mm, it is almost completely different. Of course, these applies to consulting. Of course, understanding business, there is you have this in consulting. Training, you have some of it in consulting. Integration, yeah, you have some of it there. Buy-in, you have, but the percentages are different.
Mm-hmm. And Seyma, I already mentioned your current role at Caliber Collision, where you have a role of Anaplan product owner. How do you approach working on the existing Anaplan landscape, developing new projects, developing new
Hmm.
models? Are you
Hmm.
tackling it internally, or do you also work with consultants?
We worked with consultants. We worked with a team of consultants, and it was a different experience too. I was once a consultant. Now I'm on the other side of the table. Uh, I tried to, while working with them, I tried to provide them as much as I thought was lacking. The most important one is the engagement and being responsive, right? You send a message as a consultant, you get a response one day later. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to be responsive and positive and engaging as I can. I don't know what they think. Uh, but yeah, and be having as a consultant, having a technical person on the customer side who
Mm-hmm.
understands what they talk and translates it to the rest of the team. I
Mm-hmm.
think it is like, I can say this person is a lucky consultant. So I try to make them feel lucky consultants, because I was the one understanding what they are saying immediately and translating it to the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
team, sometimes offline in our internal calls. Um, and it's a different experience being the in-house expert, and working with a team of consultants as well.
I can say having a seasoned and mature center of excellence and mature internal team is really invaluable. I have delivered over 20, delivered and managed over 30 Anaplan implementations as of now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that there is a huge difference if you implement a solution to a first time Anaplan client or if
Mm-hmm.
you develop a solution to a client that has a major landscape where the data flows are already working, where when there is a functional data hub, when you have a support from the internal team.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time implementations are always tricky because you need to train the people at the same time, you need to explain them a lot, and there are a lot of unknown unknowns from the
Mm-hmm.
client side. They do not know what to expect, and you need to account for this in the project planning. You cannot simply assume the same project for a new Anaplan client will last the same time as for an existing Anaplan project because there's much more side work in the training and explaining and setting expectations. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. At least 10% more time, depending on the situation. Yeah, I agree.
Seyma, I saw your recent post on LinkedIn and I found it quite interesting. You post quite a lot on LinkedIn. And the key point, there was a long post, the key point was 3 months projects take nine, and the delay almost never
Mm-hmm.
comes from the tool. When projects run longer than expected, where does the delay usually come from in your experience?
Mm-hmm.
And I was interested, of course, uh, projects sometimes take more than expected, but 3 months to 9 months is quite a lot. Did, is it your personal experience, or how did it happen?
Um, yeah, yeah, especially if there are data issues, you never know when the company is going to provide that data. Especially we can connect this to your um, last phrase about the first time implementing versus having a mature COE. So especially in the first implementation, they do not know that hierarchical logic. They do not know about those UIDs and the uniqueness of them, etc. And IT team is not experienced. If also if their first any software implementation ever, it can be trickier. And also, of course, there are a lot of factors, but yeah, I saw 3 months, 3 month projects extending to more than 9 months actually.
In the
And
past, I
mhm,
had a discussion or a project discussion with one former client, and they didn't have much experience with Anaplan, and they chose quite a complicated use case with vendor
mhm,
managed inventory across multiple sites,
mhm,
a global project.
mhm,
And their assumption was that it's a job for one developer for 3 months. And I
mhm,
told them, well, it's not one developer, but at least two, and it's not 3 months, but at least six. And
mhm,
within 6 months, at two FTEs, we were indeed able to deliver a working version. And
mhm,
the extensions they extended over 6 more months. So
mhm,
it was a unpleasant information for them at the beginning, but in the
mhm,
end, it helped align expectations and also internal capacities. And it
mhm,
is always better to know this information from the beginning rather than be surprised
mhm.
after 3 months, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I didn't mention it in the post, but I was planning to write a comment to it, self-comment, is that com uh, teams see the value of on a plan. Oh, yeah, this can solve many problems. Let's extend it. Let's change the scope, etc. Sometimes they start too ambitious, and it's also it's a problem too. Sometimes it just starts as a very small expense planning project somewhere in a giant company as a pilot project, and then they see it, then they want to improve or extend the scope immediately, which is not the best way, I think. Like, go live with this, see what's happening, then start a new project instead of extending it. But there is also always there is a sales aspect of it, right? A consulting
Mm-hmm.
company, if a customer comes to them with, okay, let's enlarge the project, we want to hire more people, we want to change the scope, um, they will say yes to it, of course, right? So they won't say, let's go live with this, hold your horses, and start a second project. They won't do it. And I completely understand. Uh, so yeah, different companies, different use cases, different situations, different challenges. But this is what I believe. If a company's data, for example, a project extension, for example, 3 months to 9 months, because they see the potential in the tool, is not that big of a red flag, right? But a project extension from 3 months to 9 months, 1 year, because of not being able to provide data, is a red flag, and it can somehow cause failure of the project
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yes, it's called, sometimes it's the data issues, sometimes it's the scope creep, right? People
Mm,
discovering the abilities of Anaplan, and they don't
mm,
just want high-level planning, they want the detailed planning and adding
mhm,
new regions, adding new layers of complexity, adding new
mhm,
exceptions. And these are often valid ideas and make complete
mhm,
sense, but at some point you need to tell, this is out of the scope, we need to deliver what we have
mm,
agreed, and we can talk about these extensions later on. Otherwise, the scope can get uncontrollable, and in the end, everybody will be unhappy.
mhm,
So that's sometimes again tough discussions. Telling people you cannot fulfill every dream right now, but in the long term, it makes everybody more happy.
mhm.
Mm,
I agree.
Now, coming to the next section, you are well known for sharing knowledge and mentoring others in the Anaplan community. You're
Mhm,
active on LinkedIn and on Medium. Your
mhm.
blog is called Anaplan for Everyone. Am I right?
Yeah.
And so your aim is to make this topic accessible and easy to understand for everyone, or what's the idea behind?
Yeah, I wanted to I just wanted to initially wanted to share for myself as well. There are some notes that I go back and use them too, because for example, I was integrating Anaplan into Power BI and just took notes on a Word document. I said, okay, let me publish this because I can lose this Word document, and but it will probably live a longer time on Medium and others will use it too. And I took screenshots, just cleaned um the company details and published it, and it is still referenced whoever wants to connect Anaplan to Power BI, because it has screenshots. Anapedia is providing the most reliable, the most updated version, right? But it usually doesn't have screenshots, and we most of us are visual learners. We learn better if we just see it. It is faster, right? Then you see it and you find the same screen on your computer. You just hit the same
Mm-hmm.
button. It is easier instead of just following written instructions. So I thought in Anapedia screenshots, I mean visuals were lacking. So I used Anapedia and built those integrations for myself for my current role and just shared what I took notes. Some of them are like this. Some of them are just I wanted to contribute. And there are a lot of other ideas, but I'm too busy with some other stuff, so I cannot find time. But for example, how to filter data in Anaplan. In general, at all, how to filter data. There are different ways, right? It can
Mm-hmm.
simply be just hitting the filter. Even there are some tricks that a beginner can have a hard time. Imagine a subject matter expert just finished level 1 and trying to hit a filter, but selecting the column instead of selecting a cell and hitting filter, and then they are creating a new filter while trying to check a filter. This can be really tricky for a beginner. For us, it is just a, like muscle memory. And then some complicated filters, simple user filters, line item subset filters, dynamic filters, you know, that filters on UX pages. If there is
Mm-hmm.
a holistic article on how to filter data in Anaplan, uh, this can be great, right? Or in
Yes.
general,
When you
when
write
am I
one,
planning to?
I'd like to read it. I've spent a lot of time fixing filters. It's yes, it makes huge difference in the user acceptance, in the convenience of use if
Mhm,
you make it properly.
mhm,
But I wanted to ask initially if you woke up one day and thought to yourself, "Well, I will become a thought leader," or you describe it was not a planned process. It was you were sharing your knowledge on the go, and naturally you become a thought leader.
mhm.
Was that the
Actually,
case?
I was writing Medium articles in data science as well. Uh, I stopped writing them when I transitioned to Anaplan. Uh, in my first years in Anaplan, I wasn't uh, confident enough to share. I wish I shared at that time. Again, like a filter. Of course, I knew how to build filters in my first year. I mean, I learned how to build user filters, etc. Uh, but I wasn't, I didn't have that confidence. Actually, I initially, because of the blogging or sharing experience from data science, I wrote two articles explaining. One is explaining sum. The other one was, I think, explaining numbered lists, and then shared it with a few people I knew in Anaplan, and one of them referred me to someone else, and I got an offer from there. So sharing knowledge is valuable. People respect knowledge sharing. And I remember uh, uh, Danish, I shared it with Danish Somar, and he just sent me back a message and saying, "Oh, you explained some better than most master planners." I didn't even know what master planner meant, but of course, it was a like of course, I don't think I was explaining it better than some master planners, but as a beginner trying to find my first job, it was encouraging. You
Mm-hmm.
know, oh, okay, this has a value. So, but I just stopped because I wanted to focus on my learning instead of sharing. Again, if I would go back in time, I would continue sharing because sharing is for your own learning too.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a very simple thing, while sharing it structured, you
Mm-hmm.
structure everything, right? When you share
Exactly.
it structured, it makes a difference. It organizes your own thoughts as well.
Exactly. If you want to understand something, then you need to teach it,
Hmm.
right? That,
Teach.
as the saying goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So yeah.
Now, a tough question, Sema. How many people have you trained during your career?
Um, so when I learned Anaplan in Correlation One, that data science training company Anaplan collaborated with, uh, I started to teach there as well. While working full-time as an Anaplan model builder at Slalom, I was teaching in Correlation One as well on Saturdays and I think Wednesdays. and and I was seeing how people were struggling there as well. Even passing level one was hard for them, and level two was harder, etc. And yeah, around I don't know, maybe there were around 200 people got certified. Of course, I didn't work with them
200.
one by, yeah, I didn't
200 at
work with
one
them
position.
uh, one in one batch, yeah. I didn't work with them one by one. I mean, one-on-one mentoring. We were in groups and we were providing job job advice, interview process, etc. Kind of mentoring as well. And yeah, some of them are in the planning environment, on a plan environment now. They still continue in the Anaplan world, and we still reach out to each other, support each other, and it's a good network of planners from correlation one.
Mhm.
If you, probably you are not seeing that many of them in the in Europe because this is a US based organization, but in the US we still have a small internal network of people from correlation one.
Mhm. Right. And now you mentioned your training experience
Mhm.
from a couple of years ago as you are
Mhm.
working in the consulting company. Now,
Mhm.
since then, a lot of things changed. There's
Mhm.
new advancements in the
Mhm.
Anaplan space, new advancements in artificial intelligence. Do you
Mhm.
approach mentoring and training differently, or do you still use the same approach?
Mhm. In this role, my model builders, instead of directly teaching them, I try to teach them how to find the answers
Mm-hmm.
instead of just showing them how to do it. Sometimes it can be challenging for them, but it's more useful. Basically, for example, I teach them how to ask a question in the Anaplan community. It can be as simple as level one, the people are still asking level one, level two questions, how to set up this import, right? Because their challenge is different, they pivoted the data differently, they are getting a different error simply. Um, but you can simply ask about a user filter, someone can answer your question. At least they can throw a link under your question and you can read it and uh, build the filter yourself. Or I asked them how to ask these to ChatGPT. This is
Mm-hmm.
or Claude. I didn't try Claude that much. I tried. I mean, I got used to ChatGPT more. It was initially it was terrible. Now it's getting better, and I first want them to try ChatGPT or any
Mm-hmm.
generative AI tool, and then I want them to ask the community. But I have them write the question. How to ask great questions in the community is
Mm-hmm.
another
Yes.
topic.
And
So yeah,
yes,
and
and
then
from my
I teach
experience,
them directly. Yeah, what's your
yes,
experience?
uh, my experience is that the Anaplan community is incredibly helpful.
Mm-hmm,
Now there are other communities not as used as in the past, but you are certainly familiar with Stack Overflow, where you can ask any
mm-hmm,
technical questions to any
mm-hmm,
technology. And
mm-hmm,
I saw a nice hack how to increase the likelihood that somebody will actually help you on Stack Overflow. Do you know?
mm-hmm.
Did you hear of that?
Uh, share please, because
Yes.
yeah, uh, I wrote an article about how to ask questions in the Anaplan community, but I want to hear your take.
Yes. So my tip, if somebody is still using Stack Overflow today, you ask a question, then you have your friend suggest an invalid, incorrect solution, and then somebody will tell and correct your friend because people are
Mm.
not always helpful, but they love to correct others.
I didn't know that. Do you think this works in the Anaplan community?
Yes, you can give it a
It
try. I
works.
think you might
Ah,
update your article if it works.
oh yeah, yeah, I can. I love it. So when a question is not answered, they are kind of okay with it. But when there is a wrong answer, they want to correct it because they're afraid that this wrong answer will stick, right? Will stay there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this makes sense actually. I love it.
Okay.
And yeah, now a very similar one applies to asking questions to ChatGPT, right? Not this one, but of course someone will not try to give you a fake wrong response, but asking the questions in the correct way so that it can be answered easily applies to asking to generative AI, right?
Yes, and I think that's a key takeaway. We need to learn how to ask good questions, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sima,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, we
Mm-hmm.
always finish the episode with a short segment called Plan or Die. I'll give you a
Oh.
few situations that people in
Mm-hmm.
planning run into all the time. And your job is simple. You answer plan if you support it, or die if you think it's a bad idea. No explanations needed,
Okay.
but if you want to add one, you can. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Number one, speed versus perfection. Launching and planning model with Launching a planning model quickly with known imperfections and improving it over time. Plan or die.
Plan.
Letting consultants build most of the planning model because they are faster, even if the internal team understands less of it. Plan or die.
These are tricky. Um, Plan.
And the last one, senior model builders spending time mentoring and sharing knowledge publicly, even if it slows down their own project delivery. Plan or die.
Die.
Oh, I wouldn't expect that from a thought leader like you.
From me, it
You're
depends
sharing
on
your
how
knowledge all the
you
time.
interpret it. Yeah, but like your current work shouldn't be affected, right? That's why I chose die. So it's an
Yeah,
extra work if you are sharing for your personal brand. But if you are in a consulting company and the company wants you to spend your like 20 minutes, 20% of your time sharing knowledge with the internal junior model builders, this is a different one. It's a part of your job definition, right? How did
yeah.
I
It's
interpret it?
20% of your time, and somehow you're still supposed to bill 100%, right? Or
If that
is
is
that
the
not your experience?
case, yeah, if that is the case, it will be trickier. So you will work around like 50 hours per week, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, for example, for me,
right.
my work week is 40 hours. I add those knowledge sharing, LinkedIn, etc. on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes
Uh,
sense. Seyma, thanks a lot for joining to the show today and sharing your perspective. And it's always valuable to hear from someone who has been on both sides and who is actively helping others grow in the ecosystem. To everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to Plan or Die. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the podcast for more conversations with interesting guests like Sima. Until next time.
oh, thank you. Thank you.